So what did I think of the latest music biopic, Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere? Hey guys, it's Brian. Welcome to the awards contender. Here is a film to talk about today that seemed on paper would be a big awards contender for 2025, right? We've heard a lot about this one for many months. It seemed pretty clear that Jeremy Allen White was coming for an Oscar nomination for Best Actor, Jeremy Strong, Best Supporting Actor, maybe Picture, maybe a Screenplay nomination, a few technical nominations. Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, I have had my eye on for a few months, right? I mean, after A Complete Unknown did so well at the Oscars, Surprised in Director, got close to winning Best Actor for Timothée Chalamet just a few months ago. It seems like every year now we get a music biopic that could be an Oscar film that comes out later in the year. And I went in with an open mind. I didn't walk into this expecting to hate it or be oh my God, all right, movie, show me what you don't have for 2 hours. I did not walk in thinking that. I sat down, I said, maybe I'll really like this film. The director, Scott Cooper, is a capable guy. He's made some good films before. Jeremy Allen White, I have loved in Shameless and The Bear. Jeremy Strong is fantastic. I mean, I've loved his work the last few years on Succession and then The Apprentice, which just got him an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. The ensemble in this, the entire ensemble of actors going beyond Jeremy Allen White and Jeremy Strong is excellent. And I've always adored the music of Bruce Springsteen. I listen to his music all the time. I like his work. So, there were elements of this. I was well, maybe I'll like it more than I think. And it starts off okay. It has a really great music number scene at the beginning that I was all into. And I was okay, we're going to go to different directions in this narrative. We'll go to his childhood. That's in black and white. We'll see him producing his music, writing his songs. I love films about process, especially when it comes to arts, whether it's making a film or a TV show or an album or whatever it is. One thing Deliver Me From Nowhere does right, and I am just going to call it Deliver Me From Nowhere from here on out, guys. I'm just going to call it that. That was the original title. One thing it does right is it does have some really wonderful scenes of him trying to create new music, going against the tide of what everyone wants from him, not just delivering another album that his audience, that his manager, everyone expects. He wants to do more soulful music that means something to him, that he doesn't have to promote, doesn't have to go on tour. He just wants to create a work of art. Those scenes, those moments that take place in the early 80s, those parts of the film, I think, are pretty good. But surrounding this narrative, you guys, surrounding the narrative, you have way too much happening in Deliver Me From Nowhere. In a film that's only about 2 hours, and that's with credits, I think without credits it's probably an hour and 50 minutes. This thing bounces all over the place. You have his childhood and his awful father, and then you have a romance story that goes nowhere pretty quickly. You have scenes of him going back to his childhood home, sitting in a movie theater, remembering his dad. You have him driving into the night, fully upset. You have a lot of things happening in Deliver Me From Nowhere that just never has much room to breathe. It's trying to do 5 or 6 different things in the narrative when it should be focused on 2, maybe 3 things in this relatively short running time. I mean, it's not 80 minutes or 90 minutes or something. It just felt like the screenplay is way too overpacked. And about the halfway mark, I started asking myself, so what? So what? This movie doesn't really give you a reason to care. It doesn't really give you a reason for being a film. If this wasn't Bruce Springsteen, if this was some made-up fictional character, nobody would care. It's just because we have that memory of his music. We have that long-standing history of everything he's produced, how his songs have really infiltrated our lives and, when we were kids and adults and all of it. because we all know Bruce Springsteen and his work, that adds an extra element to the film. Like, you're learning about his history, his life, some things you might not know about. I went into this like knowing almost nothing about his past, about his difficult upbringing, about the struggles he had as an artist in creating his music, well into the 80s and stuff. The movie has scenes of dramatic power. It's not a waste of time or anything. I just was getting toward the second half of this, getting very bored, very impatient, just this movie is not giving me very much. It's especially not giving me anything I haven't already seen before in better movies. A complete unknown, even though there were elements of that were familiar, it has a nice flow to the narrative, lots of scenes of them singing and performing, which are enjoyable. You have transformative performances by Timothée Chalamet, Monica Barbaro, Edward Norton, and a great, beautiful sense of place and time in that movie. You don't have much of that in Deliver Me From Nowhere. It all feels overly familiar. It has a story with very little narrative drive. There are conflicts, of course, all along the way, but none of it really strikes a chord, especially an emotional one in the audience. You're just kind of going through the motions in this story that you've already seen before in other things. And by the end, a true non-ending, I would say, to this. When it ended and it started flashing the text on the screen of what happened next and what became of all of these people we've been watching in the film, I just kind of shrugged. I was like, that's it? All right, And it's okay for this film to be more on the quiet side. It didn't have to have 7-8 scenes of him performing his songs for audiences. That's not what the storytellers of that's not what they're going for. They're trying to capture this brief moment in time in Bruce Springsteen's long career where he tried to shift gears, do something different, do this quieter 1982 album, Nebraska, that became a huge bestseller, like a huge hit, an opportunity he had in the early 80s where he could challenge himself, push himself as an artist. And so on that level, I'm not mad at this movie. If it tried to tell the entire Bruce Springsteen story, you have Jeremy Allen White playing the character from age 20 to age 60, I wouldn't have liked that. That would not have been good. I like that we just have a brief window of time. Obviously, there are flashbacks to him as a kid and his father being awful, his mother pushing him out of the kitchen, and him actually striking his dad on the back with a baseball bat at one point. But it's done in a way that's just kind of cloying, kind of cliche. You've seen that kind of story before. And what ultimately happens with the father-son story, it's overly obvious, by the end, where that's going to go. So that didn't really work for me. I like the scenes of him creating music, sitting in dark rooms, trying to do something different. Some of those moments worked for me, but it doesn't really lead anywhere that interesting. You're hoping for some sort of catharsis in the third act, something that happens in the story that really grabs you in that final 20 minutes or so, and it never does. There's an emotional breakdown. Jeremy Allen White is doing good work in this. I wouldn't say this is a bad performance or anything. He's solid. Everybody in the movie is solid. Jeremy Strong is doing good work. Nothing really stood out to me in this movie as being especially great. I didn't walk away saying, well, the movie has flaws, but Jeremy Allen White, holy frickin' shit, is he bringing it? Is he giving one of the best performances of the year? I wasn't feeling that, thinking that while watching the movie, and I definitely wasn't thinking that as I walked out of the theater. He's solid in it. I think the problem with his performance, first, it's very subtle for the most part. There's not much emoting. And the bigger problem, I think, with his performance is that he never disappears into Bruce Springsteen, especially the way Timothée Chalamet disappeared into Bob Dylan a few months ago. Never, for one moment in Deliver Me From Nowhere, did I think I was watching Bruce Springsteen. It was always Jeremy Allen White playing Bruce Springsteen. And maybe that's just not a character, a person that's easy to get lost in. Maybe no actor like currently working today could fully immerse himself into Bruce Springsteen where you forget the actor and you think you're actually watching the artist. It might have been tricky for anyone, and Jeremy Allen White gives it his best shots, but at the end, I'm like, he's good. He's not really doing like a great performance in this. I feel like there are other actors who could have been even more interesting in the parts, could have made different choices along the way. Jeremy Allen White just always comes across in this one as Jeremy Allen White. That was my reaction to his performance. So even though I like some of the stuff he does in this, that he doesn't go super big at times, it wasn't much of a standout for me. Jeremy Strong is also good. Is he Oscar worthy? I don't think so. Like, it's a solid performance. His character doesn't have a whole lot to do in the film. Most of his scenes are with Bruce Springsteen. He has a couple like nothing scenes with his wife at home. He has a take on the character. He does disappear into that guy a little bit. But by the end, I didn't take much away from his performance, his character either, so that was disappointing. I think the worst thing about the movie, if I had to pick the worst thing about Deliver Me From Nowhere, it's the romance story. Like early on in the film, Bruce Springsteen meets this young girl and, they get to talking, they get to dating, and she has a daughter, and he's kind of scared to make a commitment, and, there's like 3 or 4 scenes where it's kind of back and forth. He's out of her life for a while, and then he goes back to her, he misses her, and she wants to make a commitment to him. He's not quite sure. He thinks maybe it's best I push her away. Maybe she shouldn't be in my orbits. And just the back and forth of that romance story, it's not that interesting, it's very familiar, and there is no payoff to that story that's like anywhere interesting or emotional or cathartic for the audience. I'm just like, what is this doing here? Like, it shows he can't really commit to another person, and maybe he's a better artist if he's by himself. Like, can he have a successful relationship with this young woman? I just never cared, and the movie takes a lot of time with those two. It's at least 30 to 40 minutes of the movie, and you're just like, you're like, why? Just because it has to have a romance element? I guess, most of these music biopics, there's a romance angle somewhere in the narrative. It just didn't go anywhere interesting, and I'm like, okay, if you're going to have this in the movie, you're going to have scenes where they're yelling at each other, and she's like fed up with him, and then he's fed up with her. I'm like, you gotta do something like semi-original with this, have it pay off in a way that is satisfying for the audience, and that is not the case. So the romance angle, that doesn't work very well. All of the flashbacks, the black and white flashbacks, the childhood, and how that story resolves itself, I was just like, I saw that coming a mile away. And I just kept asking myself, so what? Get me to care, movie. Get me to care about these people, about this story. If I didn't know who Bruce Springsteen was, I would really be out of this. I wouldn't really have much interest in this at all. So I think that was a fatal flaw. Like, it just doesn't get you to care. And then you get to the awards conversation. I think most of us weeks ago said it's out of picture, director, screenplay, maybe one technical category, but it's probably just going to be a play for Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor. And I don't know, guys. I don't know. At this point, I think Jeremy Allen White is pretty safe for the Golden Globe nomination, probably Critics' Choice. I think Jeremy Allen White for Deliver Me From Nowhere, I think he misses Best Actor at the Oscars. I do. I just don't think the film is strong enough. I think there's too many cliches, too much familiarity. It's not very satisfying on an emotional level, and it is forgettable. And so, especially because the film opened a few days ago to middling box office, it didn't do very well at the box office. Reviews have been pretty good, but also some have been mixed. And I feel like this is going to fade over the next few weeks. I think come December, January, not too many people are going to be like overly enthusiastic to nominate Jeremy Allen White and Jeremy Strong everywhere. I just don't see it. I don't think there's going to be enough love for this movie to keep them in all the way to Oscar nominations morning, especially with Best Actor being as competitive as it is. there's a good 10 plus great contenders there who could slip into slots 4 and 5. Maybe he's just the safe choice this year. He gets in from Critics' Choice and the Globes all the way to the Oscars and BAFTA because it's a music biopic performance, and those often get in at the Oscars. You know, like Austin Butler for Elvis, like Timothée Chalamet for A Complete Unknown. It's happening regardless of the quality of the film. I guess that's possible. I just think there are so many more exciting contenders this year for Best Actor. You have Michael B. Jordan, Sinners, Wagner Moura, The Secret Agent, Ethan Hawke, Blue Moon. Jesse Plemons is frickin' phenomenal in Bugonia. Like, Plemons, I think, should have a better shot at getting the Oscar nomination for Best Actor than Jeremy Allen White for this very middling movie that most people come December, January will have forgotten. So I don't think Jeremy Allen White is going to get the Oscar nomination now, having seen the film. Jeremy Strong, same thing. I don't think he shows up in supporting actor if Jeremy Allen White doesn't make it into actor. I feel like it's an Apprentice type of thing, where it's like they both get in or neither one makes it in. That would be a pretty silly, like, lone nomination for Deliver Me From Nowhere. Jeremy Strong gets into supporting actor. Jeremy Allen White is not an actor. That would just be like what? Like, I really do think it's both of them or none of them. And right now, guys, I do think it's none of them. So yeah, I mean, I'm sorry to report, guys, this did land with a thud for me. I walked out of the theater just shrugging. I was just like, okay, you know, it was decent. It's not terrible, but I can't possibly give that a positive review. I would not want to come on here and say, go see it for the performances or for the music. It doesn't have anything in it I feel like you have to go to a theater for. If you're a diehard Bruce Springsteen fan, it's probably a movie you should watch at some points, but you can wait until it's streaming or you can watch it at home. I think you can wait, and if you want to, like, you can also just skip it. You can also skip it. It's not like one of the 10 worst films of 2025, not by a long shot. I would put it about at the level of The Smashing Machine, which I saw at the Toronto Film Festival. They're about at the same level for me. Not terrible, not particularly good, very forgettable. Like, they're not movies many of us are going to be talking about in the months to come. I am sad to say Deliver Me From Nowhere is definitely one of the bigger awards contender disappointments of 2025. I give this film a 4 out of 10.